Mickey 17 is out in theaters, new sci-fi comedy from director Bong Joon-ho. His first movie since the 2019 masterpiece Parasite, although to be fair, this film was shot already at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, so basically it's been 2 full years since it was completed. It is based on a novel called Mickey 7, which I have not read, and I'll explain the title change later. And it stars Robert Pattinson, Steven Yeun, Naomi Aki, Mark Ruffalo, and Toni Collette. The story follows the titular Mickey, who tries to escape debt collectors and signs up to be a so-called expendable on a colony spaceship heading to a new faraway planet. What that means is his DNA is held for reference and his memories are backed up every day, so that if he dies, they can easily print out a new clone of him who retains all of his memories. This of course means he gets to do the shittiest, most dangerous jobs on the ship and later on the planet, because who cares if he dies? And the title change, as you can probably guess by now, comes from the fact that instead of, as in the book, being the 7th iteration, we follow the 17th iteration of Mickey in this film. And the reason for the change, according to Bong Joon-ho, was just so he could kill Robert Pattinson 10 more times. One day, Mickey 17th, gets left behind in a frozen cave with seemingly hostile alien creatures coming to get him, but he manages to survive and gets back to the ship eventually, to his own surprise, only to find out that he has been printed again in the meantime, because everyone thought he was dead. So now there's two Mickeys running around, and the even bigger problem is that this is a huge taboo. And the rules say that if 2 or more clones of the same person are found active at the same time, all of them have to be killed and disposed of. So I have to say, coming from the director of Parasite and with this cast, I expected much more from the movie and walked away disappointed. I think it's fairly mediocre when all is said and done, pretty average, not great, not terrible. There are some elements which I enjoyed and others that left me wanting. But let's start with the good stuff. Pattinson is fantastic. I think he really commits to the physicality and the comedy of the two roles, and somehow he is able to, and I don't know how he does this, but his face looks and moves differently depending on which one he is. You never have any doubt which Mickey you're watching, 17 or 18, and it's amazing. He also does this funny... Stop it. Sorry about that. He also does this funny idiot voice for Mickey 17, and then when 18 shows up, it's so funny because suddenly he's doing a slightly more deranged Batman voice. I think his chemistry with Naomi Aki, is it? Or Aki? Naomi Aki. Or anyone else for that matter, is really strong. He really is able to play off the other actors very well. I think some of the comedy bits were genuinely funny, and I like the basic premise of the film and how it lends itself to discussions of identity, while at the same time allowing the film to become a critique of capitalism, class divide, and cults of personality. But, and we're getting to what I didn't like about the movie, I think that on some of those themes, like identity, it doesn't really go deep enough. And on others, like capitalism and rich dumb people, it is so blunt that it's basically a cartoon and you can't really take it seriously. It lacks any subtlety whatsoever, and as much as I loved smarmy Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things, I think here he dials it up to 12 and it's just a little bit too much. And it's also, too obvious of a parody of Donald Trump. I think when you're doing these critiques, you need to do better. You need to tap into something interesting instead of just doing a cartoon version, and this didn't work for me. I thought that some of the plot lines are strange and go absolutely nowhere. Kai's storyline especially seems to be heading somewhere interesting, but then she kind of disappears from the movie. And I've read that in the book she actually did have a significant role, which was changed in the movie or cut from the movie, and I don't really know why. I also thought that, sadly, Anna Maria Bartolomei, who plays Kai, gives a fairly wooden performance, which is especially evident when she has that one-on-one scene with Pattinson. The difference in acting between those two is so stark, it took me out of the film. I realized I am watching one full character and one actress reading her lines. I think the loan shark storyline ends weirdly because it also is kind of not relevant to the final act, and then gets kind of voiceover explained away in the epilogue. I didn't like the way that the alien reveal was handled. Like they treated like this big plot twist, not just for the characters but also for the audience, where we saw plainly that these are not aggressive when they save Mickey in the first act. So when the characters act surprised and we get a flashback for the audience explaining that, I was like, but we know this already. We've seen this. I don't know. In general, the third act is kind of a mess, and it goes on forever, which I think also extends to earlier parts of the film. The pacing is not great, because a lot of the times I was thinking, this scene should have ended a minute ago. I think it's a 19-minute movie stretched into 2 hours, 17 minutes, and you really feel that additional runtime. It does get tedious. Technically speaking, I didn't really notice anything spectacular about either cinematography or the sound or the costumes or production design. It's just all there. Not bad, not great. Which brings me once again to the summary of the movie as a whole. It's not terrible, despite all of my criticisms. There were moments and things I enjoyed, but it's certainly not a good movie either, not something I'd like to return to, and it's obviously a huge drop in quality from the excellent Parasite.